Welcome to another edition of What You May Not Know About Real Estate. Hi everyone, my name is Mike Rennick. I'm the senior broker, the team lead with Team Rennick Real Estate Services. I'm part of that great Keller Williams on the Water family. My guest today is Mr. Michael Hankin. Mike, good morning.
Good morning.
Do I get to share your bio or that your wife wrote and sent to me, or are you going to share it?
I'll get it this morning, but next week anything could happen. My name's Michael Hankin. I'm a board certified real estate attorney here in Sarasota, and I'm very proud to be a part of these videos every week.
Our topic today, during a closing, all the cash or financing, all the dollars that are involved, do they need to appear? Today we call it on the closing statement. It used to be called a HUD. But so everything that's transferring hands in terms of dollars, do they need to be on the closing statement? Mike, what's the legality with that?
So the short answer here is yes, but oftentimes people want to transfer funds between a buyer and seller, sometimes for completely legitimate purposes, buying personal property that's not connected with the sale, sometimes for illegitimate purposes, where a seller kicks back money to a buyer for purposes of a buyer not having to bring as much money to closing. Every transaction, every dollar that changes hands needs to be on the closing statement, both so you have a record of what's happened and so that you're never accused of committing fraud. Even a seller can commit fraud to a buyer's lender by agreeing to do a transaction or have a transfer of money that's not reflected on the closing statement. One thing people don't see very often is on the closing statement, it says there's a representation by both parties that those are all of the transactions that are part of that particular transaction. So this isn't just one of those things that you kind of put some window dressing on and you say, it doesn't really matter, it's okay if there's this little transaction outside. Everything, and I mean everything, needs to be on that closing statement.
I don't know how many times I've come across a situation where I've been asked to do something that wouldn't appear on the closing statement, and that is so wrong. I believe you need to have everything documented. This is supposed to be an arm's length transaction between a buyer and a seller. And if somebody wants something off the closing document, it's just not right. It's not the right thing to do. And many times I've been put in that situation, even by a bank. I mean, right up front, we had an agreement that the buyer would be rebated back $10,000. It was on the original agreement, went through all the paperwork, and the night before closing, the bank says we can't close with that on there. I'm saying that it's been on there for weeks. So even they inadvertently suggested, why don't I just pay them after closing? Well,
and that's actually a quite common occurrence. As a closing agent, we deal with the lenders and prepare the closing statements that get circulated to all the parties. And we follow the lender's instructions in doing that. That following of the lender's instructions and making sure that everything appears on the closing statement sometimes are at odds with each other. And what happens many times is the loan officer or the broker will instruct us, as Mike just said, to do something which is not proper, to not have a charge on the closing statement. Now, when the lender is aware of it and directs you not to have the charge on the closing statement, the fraud transfers. It transfers from the closing agent and the agents involved in the transaction to the lender and the bank. Because here, that lender who's trying to get the loan originated isn't telling their employer, the bank, or the person that they brokered the loan to, about this other transaction. So although the people in the transaction have done everything properly, they've disclosed it to the lender knows everything that's going on, they can't have a claim for fraud, the lender may still be committing fraud on its own employer. So the person you're dealing with, the broker, may be defrauding their employer by telling you to have something off the closing statement. And if you don't have a professional representing you, you may be following these people's advice, and that may be inadvertently committing fraud. So it's really important to have people who know what they're doing in the transaction. Experienced agents, not somebody who's had their license for a year or two. Whether that's the agent you hire, whether it's the attorney you hire, whether it's the mortgage broker you hire, you want them to know what to do, how to do it, and how to do it the right way without getting you in trouble.
So the key is business needs to be done with an ethical thought process. If it's part of the deal, it needs to appear on the paperwork. Everyone is clean at that point. No surprises. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Mike, thank you. Again, I appreciate you being here. And thanks for watching another episode of what you may not know about real estate. Take care. See you next week.
Thanks so much. See ya.